Hi, King Boomer. I cannot decide whether you look like a Civil War general or a communist dictator, but either way, I don't like it. Okay, my fellow Boomerizzles, it's time for another QI reaction. Quite interesting. These have been so much fun to do, and so informative as well. This one's on World War II, so it's about 25 minutes. I could probably stretch it to 40 or 45 with my pauses, but you guys already know that. So, and this is on the channel Versus. I'll leave a link in the description below this video for you guys. They have a bunch of QI stuff on there, and a couple other shows that are popular across the way too. But this is World War II on Quite Interesting. So hopefully it's pretty good. Let's learn some interesting things about World War II, shall we? Let's get it.
What key part did bigots play in the Second World War?
Bigots.
Bigots?
You're talking of
Not that kind of bigot, actually. We're being a diversionary tactic.
That's a bit of a minor description.
Yes, I think it is, exactly. This word is bigot with a bigot.
Oh, he was a bigot, was he? Oh, the more I hear about it. Is that an acronym, though, for something?
Yes,
Bigot.
it's an acronym. B-I-G-O-T. No, it's British. Churchill chose it.
Oh, really? Beware.
Brown-eyed girls on toast.
One trouser.
Well, I've got one trouser. Yes.
I'm getting out
Tomorrow.
Blimey! I've got
It's got off.
owls. Turned
Owls?
owls.
Yeah! Yo, Bill Bailey needs to stop. I've got owls.
Don't shit. I can't tell you.
Bigot stands for British Invasion of German Occupied Territory. Okay. So there's Monty, and there's Winnie, and they're looking at a map, as you can see, and they're planning D-Day.
Flannel over there.
D-Day.
Okay, chaps.
Got your flannel?
Everybody got their flannel.
All flannelled up. Of course, Churchill was the only person who Monty would let smoke. Well, yes, it was so secret that anybody who knew any details of the Normandy landings, they were on the bigot list, and they were not allowed under any circumstances to leave the country. The only exception was Churchill himself, but no one on the bigot list was allowed out of Britain. And indeed, there was a rehearsal for the invasion in 1944, and 10 people on the bigot list were killed accidentally. And all plans for the invasion were put on hold until they could account for every single one of the bodies, just to be absolutely sure that the secret didn't get out.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah.
It's got out now. We know
Got
now.
out now, yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It's not like it was unlikely. It wasn't going to happen, was it? I mean, England's there, France is there.
I know, but we did everything we possibly could to persuade them that it was going to be further across towards Belgium, and indeed they withheld divisions further away from Normandy where we landed, precisely because Germany fell for some of the spies, the Zigzag Man and Zabo, and that poor old chap who was a dead body who was dressed as if he was an important officer and dropped in the sea outside Gibraltar with a chained briefcase next to him with plans in it, and they gave him a whole life. It was called The Man Who Never Was. It's a film of it.
Wow. I never knew that. So they had like a fake... well, play that again. That was very interesting.
He was an important officer and dropped in the sea outside, precisely because Germany fell for some of the spies, the Zigzag Man and Zabo, and that poor old chap who was a dead body who was dressed as if he was an important officer and dropped in the sea outside Gibraltar with a chained briefcase next to him with plans in it. And
So they had a dead body and dressed her up like an officer, and then put fucking fake plans in it. Wow. I'll say one thing: when it comes to World War II, I don't think anybody was more clever than the British. I think that's the universal opinion, even among Americans. At least Americans who know about the war. But yeah, that's just another one where I'm like, man, I would have never thought of something like that.
they gave him a whole life. It was called The Man Who Never Was. It's a film of it.
Who actually was he?
He was probably a very sad, down-and-out Welsh chap who died very young and been found sleeping rough somewhere, and they dressed him up smartly to look like an officer.
You wouldn't have to do that now. You just get someone from Big Brother or something. You know? People volunteer for it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's the prize.
Certainly the rest of us will.
Yes, surprises. You're going to be killed. You're going to be a fake general. Oh, empty.
No, it is. It's a good film. Have you ever seen it coming around on
I
Channel
will.
4 one afternoon, sort of thing that pops up now and again?
Yes, I will.
It's funny to think when he was alive, he didn't know what a key part he'd play when he was dead.
I know. Operation Mincemeat, it was called.
Yeah. You can sign up to this service now when you're alive, which monitors your tweets and Facebook updates and things. And then when you're dead, it continues to tweet as you until an executor of the will who you've nominated
Yes, I know that's Dobbs for the Peep Show fans watching.
tells it to stop. And while you're alive, you give it feedback as to how good it is. And I'm starting this business, and if anyone... No, it already exists.
Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
So you can set how long it goes on till?
Yeah, well, you give someone's name and you say, this person makes
Is
the
authorised.
decision as to when the virtual me dies. And then you give it feedback. So if it's slightly funnier than you are, you say, oh, it's quite good, but bring it down a notch.
So people don't... So somebody employs to be you then after your death? Or it's not just you going, dead, 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 still dead, dead.
Yeah.
And then your followers go up, oh, he's dead, dead, oh.
You know, with one's contact list, when people die, I never have the heart to cut them out. So I have friends that have been dead 12, 15 years who are still in my address book because I just...
Have they ever called?
They manifestly haven't called, and I haven't called them. But the act of just going delete seems so...
I've done the same thing, but the...
There's a George Carlin bit about this. It was like, I think it was his last special before he died, but George Carlin was talking about... See, Stephen Fry is saying how difficult it is, and George Carlin was talking about how fun it is. He was... I can't now. I don't want to ruin the bit. Look up... if you ever have spare time, look up George Carlin dead people. And he's at this point he's an old man, but he's still... It was his last stand-up special, I believe, that was televised. And there's a whole bit about it, how he... the only part that I'll spoil here is when he's like, nowadays people don't keep address books anymore. They keep them in their phone or on the computer. So now instead of simply scratching off a name, you get to delete the fuck. That's his words. It's just so funny. You guys have to check it out. I couldn't recommend it anymore.
The good thing is, if someone dead does call you, you'll know it's them.
Yes.
You'll know not to
I know that I've been wrong all this time. I know not to answer. That's true. Well, of course, that number might be reused.
Oh, they do recycle them, yeah.
Yes.
So that it is possible that
that
one
would be the
day...
shock of one's life.
In fact, it's probable that one day that coincidence will happen. Someone who's got an old number of a dead person will accidentally ring a person who... God, I can't wait till that happens.
Now, if I could be serious for a moment. More than 100 million people were killed in wars during the 20th century. And the total number of people ever killed by wars could be as many as 1 billion. Einstein described war as a cloak that covers acts of murder. And Antoine de Saint-Exupéry called it a disease like typhus. With all that in mind, here is my question to you. Why did Hitler have such a silly moustache?
Thank God for that. I thought I was on the wrong show for a minute.
Isn't it because he was like a big fan of Charlie Chaplin? I think that's the reason, right? Or at least partially the reason. I don't know.
He's serious.
I'm sure you'd agree with my description of war there, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely. This is a difficult show for me to be on because I'm a Quaker pacifist. So I'm not an ideal person.
Were you born a Quaker?
No, I wasn't. I was a Quaker by convincement, as they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And because my family, the Fry family, were very early Quakers.
Of course they
all the
were.
way.
Of course they were.
It's a very admirable thing, and the pacifism is taken very seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely thing until Hitler comes along, and then it's not much.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it was...
You shaved his moustache.
And I think the reason he had that moustache is he was...
Did you hear Sharon said shaved his moustache off? It would have fixed everything. That was actually really funny from Jeremy Clarkson.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it was...
You shaved his moustache
And I
off.
think the reason he had that moustache is he was probably a fan of Oliver Hardy.
Ah, well, it's certainly true that they were popular in the 20s and increasingly in the 30s, well, Charlie Chaplin,
Exactly.
of course, is best known. But supposedly Hitler changed from what was a relatively bushy moustache. You may have seen a famous photograph of him as a Gefreiter, a corporal in the First World War. There he is on the left. But there are a couple of stories. No one's quite sure which is true. There was a fellow who served with him, Alexander Moritz Frey, great-uncle Alexander. He was in the same regiment in the First World War as Hitler, and he said that Hitler trimmed it into the familiar toothbrush in order to fit into the gas mask properly. Frey's account is controversial, apparently. He went on to become a satirist and fantasy novelist, starting a family tradition.
Here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did...
I didn't know Stephen Fry's... did he say his great-uncle or his uncle? I didn't know they were German.
Kill Hitler.
Okay. Fantasy novelists, starting a family tradition.
Here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did kill Hitler.
That's right. Blew his brains out.
I can't take that away from you, Jimmy.
Credit when credit is due.
That's true. Some historians believe that Hitler only adopted the tash in 1919, and his sister-in-law, who lived in Liverpool...
Well, she had one as well.
Do you know what her name was?
Muriel.
Almost, as it were.
Gauss Adolf.
Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah, that was her name. Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler?
Yeah. Yes, she was married to Alois Jr., who was Hitler's half-brother. And they had a son, William Patrick Hitler.
Billy Hitler.
William Patrick Hitler went to America and won a Purple Heart in the Navy.
Changed his name, I presume.
Eventually to Stuart Houston, I think. And he claimed he wanted to forget anything to do with his uncle, but he named his first son Alexander Adolf Stuart Houston.
Oh, God.
Anyway, yes, Bridget, in her memoir, said that he came to visit Liverpool and that she told him that he should trim the ends of his moustache to make it less bushy. But, as she put it, as in most things, he went too far.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He is the king of taking things too far, dude. Oh, boy.
Here we go. Let's have you pass that there to Sarah, if you would, Alan. Okay, there you go. There's one for you, Jack. You pass one to Adam.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll have one myself. And there's one for you, Alan. There you go. You've done this before.
So, make it upright first.
All right. Come on, will you talk to it? Come here, you. Oh, you look lovely. You're so huge. I don't think I'm going to be able to manage it. Oh, there you are, yeah.
What do you think these were once used for?
What were carrots used for, or particularly these ones on sticks?
Well, not ones on sticks.
Waving in tiny aeroplanes?
That's a good one.
Is it like what Gwyneth Paltrow gives her kids?
Well, they probably are.
You see it's dark.
Seeing in the dark. Well, you're in the right era. When was it said that carrots could help you see in the dark?
At night.
In which period of history was it made known to people, this idea, which is not really true?
The Dark Ages.
Not the Dark Ages.
People discover vitamins.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century.
Because vitamin A is the key, helps your eyes, doesn't it?
Vitamin A does help you.
So it must have been around about then.
Well, it was really...
Must be so hard being a rabbit. They would never get any talking done.
Dogs, they just stay in the hut.
What are you doing? Oh, God, man, we're a bloody carrot.
The problem was, in the Second World War, we would run out of... Put it away.
Concentrate, steam up.
That's what I need to do.
look like the world's worst burlesque dancer.
So in the Second World War, there was a very great shortage of sugar, and there was a big surplus of carrots, and so they put it about that carrots helped you see in the dark.
Oh, did they?
And
they love carrots, eh?
so they made sort of ice creams, as it were, out of carrots to try and make them attractive to children. There is a certain amount of sugar in them. As you could probably tell, they tasted a little sweet, didn't they?
Yeah, it was lovely.
And there was a group captain, John Cunningham, who was responsible for a very daring night raid over Germany, and they gave it out that what allowed him to do it was the fact that he ate carrots. In fact, what they were really doing was disguising the fact that they had on-board aircraft radar. They had radar on board. They didn't want the Germans to know. The Germans knew we had ground radar, not that we had radar on board.
So they sold the carrot story to the Germans as well?
That was the idea, both to get children to eat their carrots and maybe to get the Germans to believe that it was carrots that allowed our bombers to see over those.
The amount of deception that the British throw towards the Germans during this war, like to make them think that they're doing something when they're really doing the complete opposite. It's just, it's another one. There's two of them in here in this video, man. But there's tons of stories like that. That just, they amaze me. Because I'm like, you know, I never would have thought of that, you know.
Wouldn't it have been more beneficial if they'd said the reason our pilots are so good at seeing at night is because they eat slightly undercooked chicken?
You should have been working in British intelligence. You're just the kind of chap we need, Whitehall.
On the subject of trousers, as a matter of fact, what's the best way of dealing with a wartime shortage of trousering?
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's just a serving suggestion there. I don't think that...
They ran out of trousers?
Well, they... Obviously, in the war, there was a shortage of material, and how did they deal with it? What's the first thing you would do to save material with trousers?
Put them in trenches.
You try and use less cloth in each trouser.
Yeah, exactly.
One-legged trousers.
In Scotland, you'd wear kilts to...
or you take them off dead guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the enemy.
Yeah. But no, generally, the first thing that they banned...
pleats and things like that.
Turn-ups.
Turn-ups? That saves about an inch of...
Out of a million?
Come on.
It's a lot of material. And they were so serious about this that if a tailor sold someone extra long trousers, longer than they needed, knowingly, really, so that the wife would then make him turn-ups, the tailor would go to prison.
What about older gentlemen who pull their trousers right up?
Yes, they do, up to the nipples,
Up to the nipples there.
Yeah.
Well, now, first of all, what's going on there?
Yeah, right.
Why don't they stop somewhere on the way?
No pleasure in life left except to give themselves a wedgie every time.
Why don't they just pull their trousers right up to just under their eye?
Then they would save on shirtings.
They could have a really long fly. Like...
You're
That's an enormous fly.
Yeah.
The fly must be about 2 feet long.
The time you've undone it, you've forgotten where you're...
Just zip there. Nurse!
Also, boys under 12 couldn't have long trousers, they had to have shorts. And, of course, women couldn't wear stockings, so what did they used to do?
Oh, they used to draw a seam on the... Oh, there they are.
There you
Drawing
are.
a seam on the back of their leg.
Yeah. Because they felt that if their legs were bare, it was considered that made them look available. I don't know if the boys in the shorts thought the same. But, it was...
Different times, man.
Firstly, they would stain their legs.
That was actually really good, yeah.
With gravy browning and things like that. And then they would draw a line down the back, which looked like the seam on nylons. I mean, it seems crazy, but...
Why didn't the soldiers just draw pictures of trousers on them? I'm in pinstripes.
Which military leader does this mighty Norfolk oak commemorate? Yes, Joe.
Nigel Farage.
Well.
It's a very big oak.
No, it isn't mighty, is it? So it's not that old, in fact.
Yeah, it could be.
It's about 80 years old, not quite 80.
Not quite 80.
It was a
Kitchener.
sapling. It was a sapling 78 years ago.
It'd be too late for Kitchener.
I'm not Mosley.
You're in the right ballpark, but even more of a military leader. Adolf, as you rightly say, hit, as you pointed out, le. Yes,
There's a commemorative oak tree in Norfolk.
The fact is, everybody who won a gold medal in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin was presented with a sapling of an oak tree. And
Our oak trees.
Ah, well,
Proud, you mean they've got oak trees in Germany?
Yes, I'm afraid the German for oak is Eich, so Eichmann is Oakman.
Is it really?
Yes.
Some of the oak trees are on the German side.
Yes, our word acorn and oak come
Stout,
from the Eich.
proud English oak. Well,
Yeah, hearts of oak.
About...
I know. Anyway, the Hitler oaks, yeah. There are none left in Britain except the one in Norfolk, which is surviving, as you see.
You would assume that it's not going to really last that long once people watch this.
Well, no, they're not going to take it down. A lot
Yes.
of Americans didn't keep theirs for that reason. Jesse Owens actually did keep his. He won how many gold medals at the...
4.
4, quite right. And one of his Hitler oaks survives in his old training school in Cleveland, Ohio. Gave another to his mother. Some US athletes threw theirs away, as I say.
What a lovely present.
Well, it was handed out by the committee rather than Hitler himself, but they were, of course, associated so much with his
I gave
his
my mum a
regime.
pair of Saddam Hussein's pants.
Oh. Here's the thing, though. Like, what did the tree ever do? You know, it's just... I think there's a similar story about here in the States with... I think the Emperor of Japan, Hirohito, gifted one of the cherry blossom trees from Japan to the United States, and it was put in Washington, D.C. And I think when Pearl Harbor happened, they immediately chopped it down because, like, you know, you don't want to have a gift from the emperor who's in charge of the country that just sneak attacked you, you know? I could be wrong about that, though. I don't know. I've heard that. I think there might be something to that. But I've heard that, you know, the emperor gifted us a cherry blossom tree, and as soon as Pearl Harbor happened, we chopped that bitch down. Because it was, we were like, how dare he? Let's chop down his cherry tree. Because that was the only retaliatory attack we could do at the moment. So I wonder if that's true, because this is making me think of that with the Hitler oak trees. So very interesting, quite interesting. Anyway, let's continue.
Anyway, there you go. Congratulations to all those who did win.
In which year did the Second World War end?
1945.
1945. No,
I think I've seen this bit.
Who was the war between and against?
Germany and Britain.
Germany.
America,
Now, what happened? There was a peace accord of Paris in 1947, but where was Germany? There was no Germany, was there?
Well, there was.
There were two.
So it ended in 1990 when you unified Germany.
Is the right answer when Germany became one country again. 3rd of September 1990.
Okay.
And that is officially when the war ended against Germany, because Germany didn't exist until then again. I know it's weird, but it's technically
Bloody
true.
silly, and I lost 20 points for it.
It's the one thing we can all agree Hitler, Stalin and Franco got right and Mussolini got wrong.
Mussolini surrendered.
Yo! Mussolini. Ooh. Mussolini had... I mean, 2 of them died peacefully, didn't they? And then one of them blew his brains out. And then Mussolini got strung up by his own people. So I'd say Mussolini got the worst deal there. In fact, I think it was because of that the way Mussolini went out. Hitler was like, "There's no way my own people are getting a hold of me," and that's why he blew his brains out. But anyway, I'm trying to think what did he do differently than the other 3? I don't know.
The thing we can all agree Hitler, Stalin and Franco got right and Mussolini got wrong.
Mussolini surrendered.
There's something the 3 mustachioed dictators loathed and detested, but that actually Mussolini rather liked?
Pasta.
Yes.
So you want about Simon Sharma? He'd never come up with that.
Let's stick with the letter J.
Jackets with jeans like Clarkson's.
No.
Oh, was it double denim?
That again doesn't really begin with J.
J, does it?
J. Jizz.
The 20th century. Yes! You're close. The 20th century.
I'm close.
20th century. You've only got one vowel.
Jazz.
Jazz.
Oh,
Jazz music.
It's like this is the only one that likes church people. Oh, God.
I disagree with this question, basically. Our very, very naughty people have suggested that Hitler, Stalin and Franco were right for disliking jazz. I personally love jazz.
So you're saying that Hitler didn't like jazz?
Not just didn't like it.
The more I hear about this guy, the less I like it.
I agree. But jazz was, to the Germans, was inimical, absolutely. They thought it was total evil. They thought
it was total evil. Jazz is awesome. Dude, some of like anytime there's like a movie from like or television show that takes place in the 20s, 30s, or 40s, every time I hear jazz, I'm like, this is awesome.
But it was completely against. I agree. But jazz was, to the Germans, was inimical.
It's one of our better
absolutely.
inventions.
They thought it was total evil. They thought it was completely against everything they stood for.
But people presumably did listen to it, though, in great numbers. There's a bit of... There's a bit of yow. There's a bit of that of an evening. And then as soon as the SS come around, turn it off.
But Mussolini, oddly enough, for all his faults, and let's face it, there were many and grievous, he listened to jazz in private. His son, Romano, was one of post-war Italy's most celebrated jazz musicians. He played with Dizzy Gillespie, Duke Ellington, and Chet Baker. You can't get much higher than that in the jazz world.
I know what they mean, though. Just Bill clicking his fingers there, I felt the urge to do very bad things.
But it is an odd thing.
I got the best seat this evening.
You got it. Is that how they would scare German machine gun outposts? They just creep up and they go,
They're firing regularly, and you fire syncopated.
Yeah.
But it's quite important. I mean, I read One for the Road, and also spent a little bit of time in South Africa, and in both those places, jazz clubs are very important culturally.
Absolutely. In South America, South Africa, huge.
Underground, illegal, like to be shut down with disastrous consequences for all who take part, but really quite important. So hard to imagine it being that.
But it was a symbol of, like rock and roll, as rock and roll became, it became a symbol of defiance. And in Paris, it was hugely important, wasn't it?
Wasn't that Hitler's thing with comedy as well? Well, he didn't like Jewish comedy because he felt like if you laughed with someone, and presumably the same thing with music, if you enjoy their music, you couldn't hate them.
What you're experiencing there is cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance is exactly right.
I think you'll find your way.
Take the audience and the ladies and gentlemen home through cognitive dissonance.
Never mind them. Take me through cognitive dissonance.
It's exactly what you described. It's the ability to hold two opposing opinions at the same time. They seem to contradict each other, but actually, yet humans can do that.
Here's cognitive dissonance. Here I am on QI, like you see on the television, sitting by there. It's quite nice. Everyone seems nice. I'm having a nice time. And yet, we've had the question, what did Hitler get right? Which is exactly what my grandmother told me would happen if I went on television.
Least effective spies, Britain's Michael Bettany, hired by MI5 in 1982. He once tried to dodge a ticket on a train while drunk, and when a guard chased him, he shouted, "You can't arrest me, I'm a spy."
Yeah, I saw this clip in one of the compilations before. That's a hilarious answer, dude. Yo, that's a legendary spy right there.
So easy to overestimate the efficacy of the double bluff, isn't it?
Yes. Well, he later tried to get in touch with the KGB to sell them some documents, and the KGB thought they were being set up, and they informed MI5 of his treachery. So he was just all rubbish.
Look, that is the worst Buddy Rabbit you've ever seen.
Probably the worst spying operation happened in 1940, and this is one of my favourites. A dozen German spies landed in Britain, and they were all caught almost immediately. One walked into a pub and asked for a pint of cider soon after 9 o'clock in the morning. They weren't allowed to serve alcohol before lunch.
Half a litre of cider?
Straight away, please. Another couple were stopped while cycling through Scotland on the wrong side of the road, and when they looked in their bags, they found to contain German sausages and Nivea hand cream. And I
What a combination!
I know!
It's 9 o'clock in the morning! I've had a cider, Hans.
I thought it was because no British soldier would have hand cream, but it turns out Nivea's German. I didn't know that.
Is it?
It's German.
Oh.
One of them spoke no English at all, but the one who spoke English the best said his mission was to find out how the people is living, how many soldiers there are, and all the things.
I like the accent she put on. That was good.
I like it was a documentary, basically.
There are some people who think they were deliberately sent by senior German officers to sabotage the plot because they didn't want to invade Britain. But,
That's the Germans for you. At the time. Come the time. A lot of them have mended their ways since.
For our friends in Berlin, Richard's address is... I've got a list here, OK, of the Christian names of the first 200 parachutists to land in Normandy on D-Day. I'd like you to give me the name of any of them.
Their Christian name?
Any Christian name.
Was that Matt Lucas?
Vladimir, we're going to start with.
Yes.
Looks like Matt Lucas. He was actually in the new Gladiator movie that I just saw. It wasn't that good though, in my opinion. But nah, it was basically like it was kind of like the same. It was kind of like what The Force Awakens was to the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope. You know, it was basically the same movie, just worse, much worse. You know, and it's much worse than a classic is. Like one of the greatest movies of all time is like, you know, it's, it's okay. Anyway, Matt Lucas was in it for a bit.
Mordecai.
Mordecai? Well, there were 200 choices in here. 200.
John, Dave, William.
Enid.
Are you suggesting that it's Alan?
Remember that Alan thing?
They were dummy people. Absolutely. Are you suggesting that it's Alan?
They were dummy people.
They were dummy people. Absolutely. The very first Allied parachutists into Normandy consisted of 200 dummies, 6 men, some gramophones and a pigeon.
That's a good night.
It's the classic. Yes, the absolute classic. The 200 dummies were a diversionary tactic. The 6 men were SAS troops. I like this. They played battle noises on gramophones to divert the Germans from the real airdrops which were going on elsewhere. And the pigeon was a carrier strapped to the very first man to land. So the first soldier to land was called Norman Poole. I think they thought Normandy. Norman. Let's have Norman. But the very first ones were 200 dummies, and they were all called Rupert. Because...
So is that Jerry Springer and Kathy Burke? Also, this is a wild panel right here.
British soldiers often refer to their officers as Ruperts. They were only 2 foot 9 inches tall, but from the ground they would have looked full size. So I've got helmets for you. If you wouldn't mind, just stick those on there.
Just following orders.
Yeah. Because we're going to show you from the ground what the parachute drop would have looked like. It would have looked like this.
I like that.
It's possible you didn't need the helmets, but then it is possible that you would need them.
I needed it, yeah.
So those are replicas, obviously, of Ruperts. They contained firecrackers so that when they landed, it sounded like they were firing.
This one is anatomically correct.
They distracted nearly a full German division, and in 2013, a Rupert was discovered in a garden shed in the UK, and nobody knows how he got back. We have a real one here, which comes from the Museum of Army Flying in Middle Wallop. Wow. Don't you love this country? We have a place called Middle Wallop. It is accompanied by his curator, Susan Lindsay. Thank you, Susan.
Good stuff, man. You Brits are clever, that's for sure. Especially when it came to World War II. Quite interesting stuff, and some great banter, man. I'll never get tired of these QI videos. They're so much fun and quite interesting. Sorry, I need to stop doing that. It's cringe. But I'm laughing. The thing in the beginning with Hitler's mustache and what Jeremy Clarkson said, I'm giggling about it. So, like, we could have helped him in the beginning. And he's like, yeah, you could have shaved his mustache off. But yeah, oof. I wonder if that's true now. Like, I told you all about that the Emperor gifting us the cherry blossom tree and then us chopping it down once Pearl Harbor happened. I wonder if that's true. That's what I've heard, but it's bothering me now. So I'm going to be looking that up after this. But yeah, great stuff. I love these QI videos. It's you know, would I lie to you? Of all the clips that I watch on these reactions, Would I Lie to You is my favorite, like, panel type banner show to do. But this one is quickly becoming number 2. You know? In fact, it is number 2 at this point. It's just so much fun to watch these. Anyway, I hope you enjoy these reactions because they're quite interesting. Sorry, I did it again. But anyway, much love. Like, subscribe, do whatever you guys want. And I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.